All right, let's get right into it. For every brilliant business idea, there's always that one giant hurdle, finding the money. But what if the cash you need is already yours, kind of locked away in your retirement account? Today, we're going to explore the super high-stakes world of ROBS funding, a strategy that could make you a debt-free business owner, or it could cost you your entire nest egg.
So imagine this. You've got the vision, you've got the drive, the business plan is perfect, but the bank just says no. Sound familiar? It's an incredibly common story for entrepreneurs. Getting traditional funding is tough, and the competition for those small business loans is just fierce. It can really feel like you've hit a dead end.
But for some people, the answer isn't sitting in a loan officer's office. It's sitting right inside their own 401k or IRA. And this is the whole idea behind a really powerful, but let me tell you, an incredibly complex funding strategy called a rollover as business startup, or ROBS for short.
Let's start with the promise, because honestly, it's very, very appealing. The idea of launching your business without having to beg for loans or give up a huge chunk of your company to investors, for a lot of people, that is the absolute dream, and a ROBS plan seems like the perfect path to get there. Just think about the two main options. With a traditional SBA loan, you're in a huge pool, competing with tons of other entrepreneurs for the bank's money. And yeah, the denial rates are high. But a ROBS plan? It just flips that whole script. You're not asking for a loan. You're just accessing the capital you've already saved. You literally become your own investor.
So what makes somebody take such a huge leap? Well, the data shows it's usually not just about a cool business idea. For more than half of founders, the #1 reason is the desire to be my own boss. And for almost a third, it's a direct result of being unhappy with their old job. These are deeply personal reasons, right? It's all about autonomy and control.
And the thinking behind using your retirement funds goes even deeper. For a lot of folks, it's a deliberate choice to move away from abstract stocks on Wall Street and put their money into something tangible, a business they can actually see, touch, and grow themselves. It's about betting on the one asset they know better than anyone else, their own skills.
So how does this all actually work? It is a pretty sophisticated financial process for sure, but we can break it down into a few key moves. First off, it's super important to understand that a ROBS isn't some product you just buy off the shelf. It is a multi-step legal and financial process. The whole goal is to move your money from your personal retirement plan into your new business's bank account without getting hammered by early withdrawal penalties or taxes.
Okay, so here are the 4 crucial steps. First, you have to set up a C corporation. No getting around that one. Second, that new company creates its very own 401k plan. Third, you roll over the funds from your old retirement account into this new one. And then finally, this is kind of the magic moment, the new 401k plan uses that cash to buy stock in your C corporation.
And poof, just like that, the money that was in your personal retirement account is now sitting in your company's bank account. It's your working capital, your seed money. And you don't owe anyone a dime. No interest payments, no loan agreements. That is the debt-free dream. But, and this is a huge but, this is where our story takes a very sharp, very serious turn.
Because with this kind of power comes a ton of scrutiny. You see, pulling off the ROBS transaction is one thing, but keeping it in perfect compliance with the rules year after year, that's a whole different ballgame. And you better believe the IRS is paying very, very close attention.
This quote really captures the change in tone we need here. You should think of this less as a green light to go ahead and more as a detailed map of a minefield. The path is there, yeah, but one wrong step can have absolutely devastating consequences. And this isn't just some theoretical risk. The IRS itself has said that its Employee Plans Division gets numerous alerts about these setups. When the tax pros themselves are sending up warning flares to the IRS, you know you're in hazardous territory. This right here might be the single most sobering fact of this whole explainer. In one of its projects, the IRS found significant disqualifying operational defects in most of the ROBS plans it looked at. Not some of them, most of them. The chance of getting this wrong is statistically really, really high. So what are they looking for? Well, it pretty much boils down to 2 big issues. First, making sure the 401k plan doesn't unfairly benefit you, the owner, more than your other employees. That's the non-discrimination rule. And second, they're making sure the stock purchase was legitimate and based on a real valuation, not just some trick to pull cash out for yourself.
So let's move from those high-level worries to the specific mistakes that actually trip people up. These are the practical, day-to-day errors that can bring the entire thing crashing down around you.
You know, the most dangerous mistakes are often these surprisingly boring ones. Things like forgetting to file the annual Form 5500 or not updating your plan documents. A really common one is not offering the 401k to all of your eligible employees. They might seem like small slip-ups, but in the world of ROBs, they are absolutely catastrophic.
And this brings us to the ultimate price of failure. A single compliance error doesn't just get you a little fine. No, it can cause the IRS to invalidate the entire rollover going all the way back to day one. The whole thing is treated like a taxable distribution. After they add up the taxes, the penalties, and the interest, you could lose 60 to 70% of your retirement savings, just gone.
So we're left with this huge question, right? Is a ROBS a brilliant funding strategy, or is it a financial trap? Well, the answer really depends entirely on the person trying to do it.
Let's be crystal clear. This path is absolutely not for everyone. The sources say it plainly. These structures are not for the faint of heart. It takes a level of diligence that's way, way beyond managing a simple IRA with a few stocks and bonds.
So who actually succeeds with this? Well, our sources point to a very specific type of person. It's someone who acts like a trustee for their retirement money, not just its owner. They are obsessive about keeping perfect records and avoiding any hint of a conflict of interest. And most importantly, they understand that paying for expert legal and tax advice before they even start isn't just a cost, it's the most critical investment they'll ever make.
And that's where this leaves us. Tapping into your retirement funds can absolutely be the key that unlocks your dream business, giving you debt-free capital when nobody else will. But it also changes you from a simple investor into the manager of a very complex, highly regulated machine. And the one question you have to ask yourself is this: is the promise of that seed capital worth the peril of losing the entire nest?